Hollywood has always been fascinated by the British royal family. It goes back many, many years, in fact, really at the very start. If you recall Lord Louis Mountbatten messing around with Charlie Chaplin, Senator and all that sort of stuff. They knew the value of the integration, if you like, of the media, this brand new burgeoning media that really could reach so many people and paint a totally different picture to the one that perhaps the, printed media were doing at that time. And of course, when you think about it, in the latter part of the 20th century, that really escalated. Remember, I told you a while back now how the boss of MGM, Louis B. Mayer, decided upon hearing that Princess Elizabeth and Prince Philip, as he then became, were getting married. He thought, wow, brilliant idea, let's go over to London and make a movie based around that, and perhaps we could even buy our way into Buckingham Palace. And of course, the Queen Mother later, basically said no, as did King George. But that didn't stop the movie mogul trying his very best. A few years later, he decided to turn that particular love story into Royal Wedding, starring none other than the British darling Dame Elizabeth Taylor and Spencer Tracy. But he still couldn't get inside to film, although he did try again. As I say, the Hollywood connection really is intertwined within the British monarchy. And this particular story goes way back to 1952 and the very glamorous and glitzy Dorchester Hotel, where a certain movie mogul had hit town to do some business, a celebration, a luncheon, all that sort of stuff, and rather fortuitously met up with Prince Philip. Let me explain. Hi, lovely to see you today, and as ever, thank you so much for your time. Nice to have your company. As everybody knows who watches this channel, I love the old movies. There's nothing better than settling down, is there, and watching even something like an old showreel stuff of, what's the one I've been watching recently? It's with Boris Karloff, Colonel March of Scotland Yard. Just brilliant stories, very easily told, and you can see not much budget, but just so engaging. It's the acting, isn't it, That's the thing. They created big stars of the day. This particular movie mogul, Jack L. Warner, we haven't had a wave, have we? Sorry, quick wave. Are you all right? Jack L. Warner, the boss of Warner Brothers Studios, along with his brothers, of course, made, Hollywood history. They were the first studio to create the very first talking picture with Al Jolson. Let's not forget that. That was groundbreaking. But by 1952, the studio was known for all of those hard-hitting movies and melodramas starring the brilliant likes of Betty Davis, Humphrey Bogart, and of course the beautiful Errol Flynn, starring as Robin Hood. Nobody's ever been able to quite top Errol Flynn as Robin Hood, have they? Simple as that. But by 1952, Jack Warner was at the peak of his powers, and more importantly, wanted a slice of royal action. And he saw this wonderful opportunity. Now, when he came over to London in 1952, he was having a luncheon, a sort of celebratory thing. And they did this a lot in those days, where basically the British studios would try and get Warner's to take some of their films, and Warner's then in return would show some of theirs in the cinemas. You see, Warner's wasn't just a studio, it was a record label and cinemas and many other things as well. He was a very, very clever businessman. And this apparently is what piqued the interest of Prince Philip. You see, the following year, as we all know, the bottom line was going to be the coronation. And this was just after, of course, the sad demise, more or less, of the king. And the bottom line at this point was that although they'd had this introduction, further down the line, Jack used this introduction as a way of getting exactly what he wanted, a brilliant association with the royal family. And more importantly, won over on other moguls like Darrell F. Zanuck at 20th Century Fox with his Fox News, an early version then, Movietone of course, and MGM boss Louis B. Mayer. And how he did it was really clever, in fact, because literally they had a phone call and then a meeting and letters were passed back and forth. But the idea was once the royal family had agreed to allow cameras into Westminster Abbey, well, the idea then was, well, that's lovely and everything like that, but we'll make a colorized version of it for you, early color, as it were, great color, basically. That's what exactly Jack Warner sold it on. And so it's truly all thanks to that Jack Warner was allowed to film the European version for his Pathy News subsidiary to make the coronation in color. Fascinating to think, isn't it? Now, what happened after that was they became kind of long friends, as it were. And in his office, right up until his sad demise, were letters from literally Buckingham Palace, from Her Majesty the Queen, and of course Prince Philip, basically thanking him for the idea and the fact that this was now on record in beautiful colorized copy. Not only that, Jack decided to send over very specialized cans of film to be shown privately with some unedited footage of what they were able to capture on the day with the Warner cameras. And it just goes to show, doesn't it, exactly what goes on behind the scenes. And I know I've often said this before, but really we owe Prince Philip a lot because he pushed through where a lot of things would have been lost forever. And our memory simply would have been that of pictures and very sort of grainy newsreels. He had the foresight to realise that actually what people want to see is a peek inside the monarchy. Some say he let us in peeking too far, while others are very grateful for the likes of the association of the Hollywood mogul and the royal prince. Neil Shawn in the very heart of London.